They called you an old soul. Before you even learned how to be a child, you were already praised for being an adult. You were the easy one, the low-maintenance one, the one who understood things far beyond your years. But tell me, does it feel like a gift, or does it feel like a debt you are still paying off? Right now, as you listen to this, there is a tension in your shoulders that never quite goes away. You find it exhausting to be around people, yet you are hyper-aware of every shift in their mood. You feel a crushing guilt whenever you put your own needs first. And deep down, beneath the competence and the reliability, you are simply tired. Validating their reality using the Barnum effect. This is not just who you are, this is a scar. Psychology calls this parentification, but I prefer to call it the theft of childhood. You were not born mature, you were forced to ripen early because the environment around you was too fragile to handle a child. You became the therapist, the mediator, the emotional anchor for the very adults who were supposed to protect you. And now you are left with a sophisticated survival mechanism that you no longer need but cannot turn off. If you have ever felt like you are raising your parents, or that you have lived 1,000 years in a single lifetime, then stay with me, because today we are going to dismantle the heavy armor of your maturity and finally let the child speak. Let us look at how you live your life today. Society might look at you and see someone who is aloof, obsessive, or unable to trust. They tell you to loosen up. They tell you to let go of control. But they do not understand the architecture of your silence. I know that your need for control is not about power. It is about safety. When you were a child, chaos was dangerous. If you didn't manage the emotions in the room, nobody else would. So, you learned to be the designated driver of your family before you could even reach the steering wheel. You often prefer solitude. You lurk in the shadows of social circles, observing, analyzing, rarely participating. The world calls this antisocial. I call it strategic vigilance. You have spent a lifetime reading micro-expressions, anticipating outbursts, and walking on eggshells. It is natural that now you find peace only in the quiet. Your solitude is not a rejection of people, it is a recovery room. You are not boring because you dislike loud parties or shallow drama. You are simply exhausted from decades of performing a role you never auditioned for. While others were allowed to be careless, you were building a fortress. Your hyper-independence is not a flaw. It is proof that you learned the hardest lesson too soon, that the only person you could truly rely on was yourself. So let me be clear, there is nothing wrong with you. You are a survivor of a subtle war. And the armor you wear, it served you well. But perhaps it is becoming too heavy to carry alone. To truly understand why you feel so old inside, we must leave the surface level of psychology and descend into the depths of the unconscious, to the realm of Carl Jung. Jung spoke of archetypes, universal patterns that reside within us all. Two of the most powerful are the puer aeternus, the eternal child, full of chaos, creativity, and play, and the senex, the wise old man, representing order, responsibility, and structure. In a natural life, the child embodies the puer, and slowly, over decades, evolves into the senex. But your timeline was violated. You suffered what I call an archetypal inversion. Because the adults around you were acting like children, emotional, volatile, or absent, nature forced you to summon the senex before you could even tie your own shoes. You were possessed by the spirit of the old man. You became the architect of stability in a home built on quicksand. This is not maturity. This is a survival strategy called the false self. Winnicott, a psychoanalyst, described the false self as a defensive facade erected to hide the true, fragile self from a terrifying world. You became good, quiet, and mature, not because you wanted to, but because being yourself was too risky. Now, let us identify the hidden variable that governs your current suffering. It is a concept known as developmental debt. Every year you spent managing your parents' emotions, every moment you suppressed a tantrum to keep the peace, every time you swallowed your needs, you were borrowing energy from your future. And now, the debt collector is at the door. The exhaustion you feel, the burnout, the desire to rot in bed and do nothing, society calls this depression. I call it the Great Correction. Your psyche is shutting down the factory. The senex is tired. The armor is too heavy. You are not lazy. You are in a state of psychic repayment. You are finally allowing yourself to collapse, which is the most honest thing you have done in decades. This leads us to the most crucial concept you must understand today. In the ancient art of alchemy, the first stage of transformation is called nigredo, the blackening. Nigredo is the process of decomposition. It is the rotting of the old material so that something new can be born. Right now, you are in nigredo. You feel like you are falling apart. You feel dark, heavy, and lost. But the alchemists knew that without this darkness, there is no gold. Your mature identity, that helpful, self-sacrificing, people-pleasing persona, is dying. Let it die. Do not rush to fix yourself. Do not rush to be productive again. This darkness is a cocoon. Inside this pain, the puer, the child you locked away, is waking up. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control what happened to us, but we can control how we frame it. Your stolen childhood was a tragedy, yes, but it also gave you a superpower. The ability to endure, to analyze, to see the truth where others see only illusions. You are not broken. You are simply under reconstruction. The adult you were forced to be is crumbling, so the human you were meant to be can finally emerge. have traversed the dark corridors of your history, but healing does not happen in isolation. The tragedy of the forced adult is that you have always suffered in silence, believing your pain was a private burden. But as you can see, you are not alone. This channel is a sanctuary for the lurkers, the silent observers who have carried the weight of the world on small shoulders. So, I extend an invitation to you. I want you to break the habit of silence that has protected you for so long. Down in the comments, I want you to leave a testimony for the child you were not allowed to be. Tell me, what was the specific moment you realized you had to become the parent? Or simply write, I am ready to put the armor down. Turn the comment section into a collective confession booth. Read the stories of others, witness their pain, and let them witness yours. In this shared vulnerability, we find our strength. You are safe here. Thank you for letting me see you. I will see you in the shadows.